Okay, we are in live. So, very good evening to one and all, my dear student participants, the respected faculty and other guests, and of course, I heartily welcome today our esteemed chief guest, Mr. Radhamohan Gupta. Today, this exclusive webinar arranged by International School of Business and Media, Kolkata campus. And we have selected the topic which is directly related to our daily life, that is nothing but the supply chain. So our esteemed guest will talk mainly on impact of recent pandemic on supply chains, considering his vast experience. So at the beginning, let me share with some concept how this supply chain management or supply chain techniques or supply chain practices is going on in industry. So it's a very long journey. The journey took in 1876. If you go through the history, that is evolution of modern supply chain today. So there was a construction was going on, that is expansion of the railway track with wooden sleepers. Today the concrete sleeper, that time it was wooden sleeper. The railway company was Pennsylvania Railway, so it was expansion of Philadelphia surroundings areas. So probably this was the first data we found out historically from Harvard or all kind of availability resource. So this was, that is called the first era of supply chain, which we noticed till the Second World War or post Second World War. So that is basically basic supply chain. So that was a manufacturing centric world. Whatever the commodities, manufacturing goods being produced by the manufacturers, the consumer has no other options. They will see and they will buy. Then after the Second World War, post Second World War, the entire global trade has changed. The formation of GATT, General Agreement of Tariff and Taxes, and subsequently the World Trade Organization. So there was a unionization understanding among all the countries. If you want to make mutually the trading, there should be in norms of uniformity. So 1950 onwards, the new concept, the management paradigm came. This is called marketing management concept. And then the new concept even considered by the supply chain practitioners, that is called extended supply chain management, because in 60s, 17, 80s, there was another configuration came in supply chain, retail and asset optimizations through product management. So the extended supply chain management till focused 98, 99 or 2000. At 21st century, it was in the open world, open trade. The new concept came worldwide, digitalization. And of course, India, almost a decade, we are in digitalization following. So this is called ultimate supply chain. Here, the e-commerce, the e-business played a significant role, and various modes of digitalization took place. Artificial intelligence played an important role with the help of Internet of Things, machine learning, deep learning, other technological system, robust technology. So at 21st century now, we are the third phase, that is called ultimate supply chains. Now, I will not take more time. I will introduce our esteemed chief guest, and he will show you his vast experience, and he has focused his presentation mainly for different area. First area, he will talk briefly what is supply chain and it's important in today's business strategy. The second part of his presentation will consist what's overall impact of pandemic and on supply chain. Third, challenges faced by supply chain during pandemic. And of course, the fourth, strategies to be made for future ready. So it's my privilege to introduce today's esteemed chief guest, Mr. Radhanavan Gupta. So he holds over 27 years of sound record in multinationals and leading Indian company. I'll start with his academic background. He's a very senior and successful alumni of one of the prestigious engineering institute. Today we call NIT, earlier it used to call Regional Engineering College, Calicut. And then he did his flagship PGDBM program from one of the world recognized institute, that is called SPJMR or SPJN Institute of Business Management Studies, Mumbai. It is under Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. Coming to his working experience, presently he is working as a capacity of Regional Procurement Director South Asia at the very giant MNC called Reckitt and Benckiser. So prior to this designation, Regional Procurement Director, he has also worked as Head Planning and Logistics India. So over 4 years of time. Prior to that, he was in the PepsiCo Group supply chain manager, and he used to manage that end-to-end supply chain for Tropicana juices. This is a very lucrative and important segment of business. Prior to PepsiCo, he was in the Castrol as a capacity manager, planning and logistics over 5 years of span, and he was responsible for ensuring high service levels across consumer, industrial, and marine consumer segment and optimized cost. And after passing out from his institute, he was there for around 2 years at BPL Limited. It was a very famous organization that time in electronics segment, and he was responsible for final assembly line operations. And is very keen to associate with the business school. So it's our privilege that within a short notice invitation, Mr. Gupta has accepted his confirmation, and he is spending the valuable time just for us to gain enough and enough knowledge. So on behalf of ISBM family, I welcome sir to deliver your kind address.
Thank you. I would like to thank you, ISB and M, and especially Mr. Ghosh, Dr. Ghosh, who took the initiative to get in touch with me and pushed me hard to make it today. He rather wanted to do it last week. And I was very happy to as well as the students over here, those who are here. Now, you are able to hear me and it's all right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Now, I'm just going to share my presentation.
There is a
Just let,
share. Yes, sir.
just let me know once you can see it.
Yeah, yeah. It is okay, sir.
You can see that?
Yes, sir. It is perfectly okay, sir.
All right. Now, uh, today's topic, as we go, we will cover the topics which uh, Dr. Ghosh has already briefed about it. Today's topic is resetting the supply chains, structural changes post-pandemic. What are the changes industry is thinking about? Either they have already done it or they are in process of doing it. We'll cover it in rather detail. I think I have around 45 to 50 minutes kind of thing. I'll try to
Yes, sir.
cover.
You are most welcome. Most welcome.
This is the brief intro. You can go yourself. Dr. Ghosh has already uh, talked about it. One thing which I will add on is a member of FICCI committee, which is working on national logistics policy. Second thing, through CII, I'm working very closely with Logistics Secretary to Government of India to develop national logistics infrastructure. This is an initiative taken by Special Logistics Secretary, where he's working very closely with the industry. And other things I think Dr. Ghosh has mentioned about. Of course, in my idle time, I write poems and then I'm interested in astrology. This is something about me. Now, looking at the agenda, what I would like to cover is understanding SCM very briefly. I think you people understand by now what is SCM, so I will not spend much time over there. Disruptions in supply chain. Yes, this is what something which we'll cover, and pandemic has been one of the recent one. Now, impact of COVID-19 on supply chains. We all know what are the issues, but how did we derive that what all need to improve? We will go further into detail. And then if we have to tackle these kind of pandemic, these kind of disruptions, what is the architecture of future ready supply chains? What all the industry need to do? It's around 22 slides and our estimated time is around 45 minutes, which I would like to take. Now, going directly, before we go into supply chains, let's understand the market, because that is the place where the supply chain is actually working in. The markets are consumer driven. You have seen anything which we are doing nowadays is consumer driven. It's a product design, it's consumer driven. The channel design which you are doing is for customer service, to ensure that your customers are happy. It is for your consumers are delighted. Your pricing strategy even is consumer driven. Which kind of market you are targeting at, which kind of customer you are targeting at, which market, which segment market it is everything is consumer driven. So it's consumer driven market, mass to customized. Gone are the days when it used to be the mass production. Now it is customized. You get to your need, what you require, what my customer requires individually. In some of the cases, you would have seen even your name is written on the product. I don't have to name the company which does that, but you would have witnessed it. So it is so customized. It is mass to customized, and then physical to online. I think we have witnessed it, that we all, even we were technology savvy or not, we were forced now, or we are now enjoying rather the online shopping, which is there. It's online education. I'm delivering the lecture online. Rather, I would have been in your campus if this pandemic was not there. Otherwise, everything is happening now online. Shopping, education, everything is online. Now, this is the evolution of the market if we see. Now, if we say some more things like market just before pandemic, market was all set for next level of growth. Why? Because increased disposable income, because of high consumer awareness. Consumers now know what they are buying, from where they are buying, what are the options available, what is the value which they are paying for. It's a highly aware consumer which we are dealing with now. Evolution of retail market. Now you tell me, few years back, we used to think who will come to these malls and pay higher, and who will shop from these malls. Now, if you see, the percentage of your net revenue coming in sales is almost 30 to 35, and being on conservative side through modern trade. Traditional trade always runs in Indian kind of market. However, modern trade is now 30 to 35% and even more, which used to be 4 to 5 to 6% kind of thing for FMCG companies earlier. So the organized market are growing, retail markets are coming up, modern trade, e-commerce, that's coming up. Evolving rural markets. You will agree with me that the rising rural income is also giving the evolving, is supporting the evolving rural markets. If you see the rate of growth in the business is much higher in rural market for some of the companies than in the urban market or suburban market, because they are reaching to interior areas. The product which were not available in rural areas earlier, now very easily available, and at affordable price, affordable price point, all that you have witnessed. Now, product differentiation, you introduce a product, very next day you will find that there is another product, which is me too. Now, products are being introduced by the companies where it is becoming very, very difficult to differentiate. You launch a product, as I mentioned, and companies are trying hard to differentiate. Price sensitive market, of course, it puts lots of pressure to reduce the costs. It's very price sensitive market, India market, which we are talking about. We all know about it. I don't have to elaborate. And finally, is in terms of fierce competition. Again, there are multiple choice available. There are multiple players, and there are multiple, when the options are available, consumer is also trying them out. Now, having said that, when this much market dynamics is happening, why this all is happening, right? And you might guess why it is happening, because your consumers are changing. Your consumer behavior is completely changing. What is changing is growth in per capita income. We talked about it is going up. PP, which is purchasing power, is going up. Health conscious consumer we are having. Changing consumer lifestyle, on the go, ready to eat. Convenience is the buzzword. Everybody wants to prefer the convenience, and then the consumer lifestyle is totally changing. One very important thing is that consumer is becoming more experimenting. The brand loyalty is there, but now they don't mind changing the brand if their experience with another brand is better than the current one. So experimenting is happening, and various sizes, price points are available. So much of multiple choice kind of thing. There is more and more experimentation happening. Hope you'll agree with me. Now, when so much changes are happening in market, the consumer behavior is changing. It's very, very imperative that the supply chains are also changing. Supply chains are the backbone of the organization in terms of right from sourcing the product, making them and making them available to the consumer and delighting the consumers. So when there is so much of change with consumer behavior and market and competition is increasing, in market it is becoming rather supply chain versus supply chain. I generally go in the various webinars and I talk about that now the competition in the market or marketing battle is being fought by the supply chains. How fast you can make the product available, how cost affordable it is, how can you please your customer, how can you give a better experience to your consumer, how can you make the packing interactive with the consumer, because first experience of the product of the consumer with product is through packaging. How you are making all those things are through supply chains. So supply chains are becoming more and more important. They have been always important, but nowadays they are directly fighting or supporting the business to fight in the marketplace. Having said that, I think I will not go into the detail of what is the supply chain. Of course, it starts right from demand planning, sourcing, planning the material, production planning. So a lot of planning to sourcing, where you source the material, manufacturing, and finally deliver. So it has all facets of plan, sources, make, and deliver. No need to go into detail. It also, if you say, the supply chain, of course, deals with procurement, manufacturing, distribution, and logistics. However, there are three facets of supply chain, once again, long term, where we talk about the manufacturing footprints, where all we want to manufacture is the distribution network. How do we want to reach our consumer? Is it through distribution center, distributor, or retailer? Or do you want directly from your factory to the consumer? It's all long-term planning, and depending on your business strategy and also kind of product you decide that which kind of channels you want to have. So these are the long-term long-term decisions which are taken, which are strategic. So that's one point. Second is medium term. What's going to be your production plan for next few years? How you want, what are your procurement contract? How do you want to source your material? They are mid-term to short-term kind of decision which you take over there. How, which kind of transport you want to use, and they are a bit of tactical as well, right? So they are medium terms. Now, if you go to immediate ones, which are operational, the daily dispatch schedule, the daily issues coming from consumer, right? The service level agreements with the modern trade, how we are performing, they are the daily level. However, if you do first two things right and more in detail, like strategic and tactical one, the third one becomes quite easy, because you have the policy, you have the guidelines, you have the culture on which you are working on. So third becomes operational, and it becomes easier to do. However, point of putting this slide is that supply chain, of course, while it works through different processes, it's also right from operational to strategic decision it deals with. Now, when we are talking about supply chain, we cannot have an isolated supply chain strategy than business strategy. Business strategy is something which is the overall guidance for the business, how to do the, what to offer, which product you want to offer, what service you want to offer, and which is your target customer, when to offer it, what is the product life cycle of my product, where to offer, which are the market, which are the segment, which are the consumer I'm targeting it. So while business strategy is what all your organization wants to do, in which direction they want to do, supply chain management or supply chain strategy is something which operationalizes it. You want to be in a very cost sensitive market, kind of price sensitive market. It is your supply chain which works on, which is focused on the cost reduction. When you are working on the supply, on the some of the products which are responsive kind of thing, or which are, let's say, innovative product kind of thing, you might not be focusing on cost. I'm not saying you are not reducing the cost, or focus is not there, but your focus is more on service. Your focus is more on go to market speed, and your supply chain, your R&D, everything need to work together to support that business strategy. So supply chain strategy lays down the basic on how to deal with supply chain partners, supplier, distributor, customers, because it's a chain, as we are saying. So how to deal with them, which kind of supplier you need. If your suppliers are not flexible and agile, you might not be fast to introduce your product. You may not be fast in speed to market or go to market objective of your entire organization. So the supply chain strategy emanates from business strategy. And that is the one thing which this slide says, that there has to be a business strategy from where your competitive strategy comes in, which kind of price, what kind of product, it's a me too product or innovative product, where you have USP, unique selling proposition for your product, and then supply chain strategy come how to support that. And the supply chain strategy might deal with inventory, transportation, manufacturing facilities, the information technology, what is the technology you need to define, the digital, which we are talking about and we'll cover. And it also deals with that whether your supply chain has to be efficient or it has to be responsive. One kind of product might require efficient supply chain, while other might require responsive. In generally, you will find that there is a lot of confusion and organizations struggle because they have the wrong match. With a functional product, they try to forcefully fit in the responsive supply chain. It could have been efficient maybe, or other way around. You get my point? Now, that is the thing where the supply chain strategy comes into the picture. We have talked about that how important supply chain is in brief. Now, talk about other side of it. Suppose there is a disruption in supply chain. The supply chain makes or breaks your market, your market share, your consumers. Same way, if there is a disruption in supply chain, it devastates your entire business. And that is the supply chain disruption. Now, if we look at quickly what is any disruption, it is any breakdown which impacts the flow of material. It could be small, big, it could be internal, it could be external at your supplier or something else, short term, medium term, long term. It could be type of disruption, could be even natural or man-made or economic, anything. The current pandemic situation, I know there is a debate, it is natural or man-made. We can have a debate later on and separately, but certainly, right, it is a type of disruption which we are facing as of now. Now, if I say, just Google it out and you'll find this chart, what are the top 10 supply chain disruption? Let's say, pick up a year in 2015, there have been different kind of supply chain disruption. There was a port explosion in China. There are Chennai floods where the plant operations were stopped. The strike at Nhava Sheva port, backlog of containers lying over there, Panama Canal congestion. Now you have different kind of disruption happening in different years. They are geographically limited, or they are into particular industry kind of thing. However, the situation which we face today, the COVID-19 and its impact is different, because while natural disasters, extreme weather, and other events have affected the global supply chain in the past, the movement of people and goods around the world has never been impacted by a catastrophe with the breadth and scope of COVID-19. And why do I say so? When we talk about COVID-19, there is a geographic span. No previous disruption has impacted entire globe. In one stretch, entire globe. Tell me which country is not impacted. Every country is impacted. Intensity might be between low and high, but every country is disrupted. Industry span, all the industry, you take the tours, tourism, you take the any industry, you talk about financial sectors, the manufacturing sectors, automotive, everything is impacted. Third thing is the demand and supply. This is the first time it's a demand and supply shock. While the demand is also impacted, supply is also impacted. And when I say impacted, for some item it has gone sky high. That's the hygiene items, hygiene products like sanitizers, soaps, etc. And for some item it has gone almost to dip to zero, or maybe very low. And finally, the duration. It has been already 18 months and it's still suspected to go on. And even if the third wave is not there, which I wish is not there, you will find that the impact of these 18 months are going to be much longer. So duration also is very high. So you'll find that while there have been supply chain disruption, this disruption is something which is really devastating and which has the impact all over the globe on all sides, whether it is demand side or supply side. Having said that, if I try to put it, COVID-19 impacts, overall impact on economy, we'll find that overall impact, I don't have to go into detail, lockdowns, 183 million cases so far globally, 3.9 million deaths, travel bans, social distancing norms. Impact on economy, huge on GDP. UK minus 9.8, US minus 3.5, India is minus 8% in 2020, and China, I think this is the only country where it is 2.3 in spite of being the originator or the origin country for the pandemic. Consumer behavior. Now you'll find that travel and transport has gone down by 80%. 80%, right? Think about the industry, how damaging it is for them. Personal services has gone down, the spending on that by 50 to 60%. Food and grocery also 15 to 20%, because there is a segment who has the limited resource, and those resources have gone into medicine, etc. And food and grocery, even the spending has come down at 15 to 20%. I'm not talking about the hoarding, which people have done. Online shopping, consumer behavior, we have talked about. I think there are data floating on the Google that whatever could not be done in 10 years, online shopping is done, those many hits in 2 months kind of thing. So you have all that data. So online shopping, the consumer behavior is completely changed. Having said that, if you talk about supply chains, how it has impacted supply chains, we all know restricted movement of people and goods. There has been a labor shortage. People, we saw that painful scenes of labor migrating to villages, etc., and labor shortage in factory. Supply and demand both got impacted. We talked about it. Stock out. I think for years we have been working on, and it has been the focus of supply chain for just in time, vendor managed inventory, etc. There has been a good focus, and because of that, the inventories were just optimized or very thin in the entire supply chain. Little disruption and everything got impacted. Is it good or bad to have JIT VMI? We'll discuss it later, right? It still remains the objective of supply chain. However, that was one of the reasons for stockouts. Global interruption of supply chains, we have talked about. We were working on global models of supply chains. You are sourcing from somewhere, manufacturing somewhere, and selling somewhere. Your market is totally somewhere else, depending on what is your cost effectiveness at all the regions in different geographies. So these were the global models. With the pandemic, the entire global supply chains got interrupted. Supplies got delayed. There were ports which got congested, and you didn't get the supply in time. Your factory is open, but you don't have the raw material to produce. The feedstocks were not available. Feedstock I'm talking about is to your supplier, they supply some raw material, and your supplier were not able to supply, whether locally or they were based abroad, and they were not able to supply. So feedstocks were not available. And that's where your supply got interrupted. Mono-sourced items, there has been a huge pressure over a period of time on cost reduction. I generally, wherever I go and say, we keep asking for the reduction in prices and we do it ruthlessly. I tell to my team that one day will come, we will ask the suppliers that give us free. That much is the focus on the cost reduction. Now, if that is the thing, the mono sourcing is something which nobody would like to have. However, to achieve the entire cost targets and through economies of scale, even some of the supply chains are doing that mono sourcing in spite of knowing the devastating effect of mono sourcing. Then technological gaps across supply chain. You have ERP, but you are not connected with your suppliers or with your suppliers. They are not talking to each other. The systems are not talking to each other, either within supply chain or either within organization or with your partners, which are there. So there are technological gaps where the information is not flowing or it is broken information flow. NWC challenge is networking capital, where the cash cycle is not getting completed and there is not enough cash in the cycle, especially with the MSME and the small vendors who got impacted and they didn't have much of networking capital to run their business. Now, these were the overall. You might add on some more into this. It's not exhaustive, but it is major issues with supply chain face. Now, taking you to some of the things, I keep going into the various seminars, webinars, I talk to my friends. If I try to summarize, the challenge faced, in sourcing, it was raw and pack not available, or there were imports stuck or delayed. Monosource item either not available because they were not able to produce, or less available because they are rationing out the capacity. They supply not only to you, they supply to many people and they are then rationing out capacity. Produced by supplier but cannot reach your factory. This was a classic example. Supplier can produce, but why it can't reach your factory? Because there are transport is not available, or there are state-wise rules where your material comes down south, you are producing up north, easily 1500 kilometers, right? But they are stuck somewhere. Let's say it starts from Tamil Nadu, it is got stuck somewhere in Rajasthan because of state rules, border rules. Feed stock not available. We talked about it. You are importing it, or your supplier, you have never bothered to review your supplier or the tier 2 or tier 3 suppliers, and feed stock is not available. So these were the issue in sourcing. What does it makes you feel is, or makes you think about is that it may be raw pack is not available because supplier factory may not be working. We talked about monosource item not available. Maybe supplier is having heavy demand. We discussed about feed stock not available, second tier supplier not supplying. These could be the probable reason. However, when these are the probable reason, what could be the solution which you thought about? Oh, maybe we were managing our supply chain better. It could be local sourcing versus global sourcing. Am I heavily dependent on the global sourcing? Is it a collaborative approach that if my supplier is not able to do something, can I help him to do something? Now, that's the collaborative approach. He can produce, but he cannot transport. May I provide him transport, my transporter, and get it over to my factory? Is a collaborative approach. Am I doing it? The feed stock not available. Have we worked proactively, not when ship is sinking, but proactively on alternate raw materials? That if this material is, we have defined, and if this is not available, we have alternate raw material which is available. Have we worked on that? So what comes into your mind is, have we been collaborative? Do we believe in partnership? Have we worked on BCP, which is business continuity plan? Same way for manufacturing quickly. The issues were restricted movement of people. Your factory is open, but you don't have the labor because they have migrated or they can't move. Is that within the same factory, one line is heavily loaded with the production plants, and another is having very low utilization. It happened. If it is a sanitization, your factory is working all 3 shifts, is still not able to meet the demand. But there are other products which have no demand or very low demand. That situation also we have witnessed. Now, it could be because of the different kind of, hygiene product demand going up during this pandemic, etc. kind of thing. Now, the thing which comes to mind is, have we done enough automation? Do we have flexible manufacturing line? Can I produce product A, product B, and product C on same line, but with some modification, maybe with some changeovers, maybe? We also witnessed that there were breakdowns. Have we ever thought about predictive maintenance to avoid that kind of loss in production? And have we done the scenario planning that not only the what and if, but the financial implication if my line is not working or one line is having the high demand, another is having low demand? Have we done the scenario planning? Which again clicks into your mind. Do we have flexible and agile manufacturing? Scenario planning, are we doing it? Deliver, if we say the same thing for the logistics side, there were thin inventories in the system, high demand and low demand, no visibility on inventories. I think no will be very harsh. Let me say it, low visibility, and transport not available. It could be, as I mentioned earlier, it could be because of JIT and VMI focus, which we had all over so many decades, and optimizing inventory throughout the channels. It could be high demand and low demand because of panic buying. It could be the temporary demand. It is not the sustainable demand pattern, increased requirement, and something were postponed. And that's how it became low demand. But it was not, again, a temporary one, that demand will come in, but people have the limited kitty available in which one they are buying, whatever is the priority. Low visibility because integrated systems are not there, and restricted movement made it transport being not available. Now, again, what do you think about? Do we need to review the norms? Do we have clear visibility throughout? And have we managed the last mile while delivering? You have all the products available, but has it reached my consumer? Perhaps not. And that brings transparency through digitization and last mile management, which we need to work. So what I'm saying is, these are some of the issues we really practically faced in industry. And these are some of the things which we need to look at, which we need to improve upon. There has been a decade-long focus on inventory optimization, converting the supply chains to global model, right? So there have been a focus on cost, there have been a focus on service, there has been a focus on customer delight through whatever you do in the supply chain. And that needs a review, that whether if this kind of situation disruption comes in, whether we'll be able to support and service our consumers, because the organizations who are making difference now are the organization who, in spite of these all issues, have reached their consumer, have serviced their consumer, and have differentiated themselves that yes, throughout the preparation, we have still done much better in spite of this pandemic situation. And that's where it comes to that whether the pandemic or no pandemic, if I put a Gartner's 4-step model, the organizations are into 4 steps as of now. Level 1 is reacting, something happens and you react. 50% of companies globally are still into this kind of thing, that reaction. Something happens, you react, whatever best you can do, fine. Second thing is in terms of anticipating. Companies are anticipating and they are doing some kind of continuity plan. 30% of companies are falling over there. And the other companies are, which are in mature stage of supply chain, are collaborating. I think I touched upon that you can't do everything on your own, perhaps. There are capabilities which your partners have, your suppliers have, your distributor have. Are we building on those capabilities? We don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. But are we having the partners who complement our capabilities? You have a capability A, I have a capability B. We combine them and achieve our target. I gave you the example where the supplier can produce, but he can't supply. Very tactical example, but it is, and it is true. That's what happened. And that's where you need to come together, collaborate on each other's capability and make the things happen. And that's where around 15% of companies are there. There's a huge lot which is working in silos. We need to work on each other's capabilities and build upon. And finally is orchestrating, which is the evolved supply chain where digitization is being talked about, where who are looking at tier 2 and tier 3 supplier, where the inventory visibility is all throughout. There is a transparency. Systems are talking to each other. Now, these are so pandemic or no pandemic. There are 4 stages of supply chain, and few organizations are orchestrating 5% kind of thing, and they are continuously improving. Having said that, the future supply chains, the architecture of future supply chains certainly will be visibility throughout supply chain, right? We'll cover it into details that every system is talking to each other, and we should know what is happening at each stage of supply chain, not only within organization, but outside organization as well. Second is speedy innovation cycle. Consumers are impatient. The speed is very high. If you don't supply in time, don't supply of their choice, they will switch over, because we talked about experimentation. The consumer is very experimenting and they are switching over. That's how the speedy innovation cycle. Third one is flexibility and agility. We talked about in manufacturing, and whatever you do, there need to be flexibility. We need to simply switch over and do the scenario planning and the planning for predictability. We need to predict what is going to happen, right? There are internal risks, there are external risks. You have more influence on internal, but can you now increase your influence on external as well, and then manage the risk? Same way, there are known risks and there are unknown risks. Known risk, of course, you have tick marked. Unknown risk, what happens? You can't plan for them, but can you do something about that proactively? And that's where comes in, is that all this in the future ready supply chains, you will require all this, along with the talent and the skill development, which supports all of this. Today, the talent and the skill of the people is totally different. People need to be very data savvy, and not only data acquisition. You need to have data acquisition, number one, then data access, and then data analytics. Now, supply chains are throwing so much of data at manufacturing floor, in the logistics, in in the procurement. 80% of data is getting wasted. 80%, which is black data. And this data wastage means is you are losing a lot of information as well. And that's where it becomes important to capture all the data. Now, going through in detail, your visibility, all the system need to be talking through together. If you have some issue in procurement, it needs to be visible in my production floor so that it can be changed immediately. We don't lose the time, and vice versa. The system need to talk about warehouse management, transportation management, inventory management system. This all need to talk together through artificial intelligence, AI, where the normal decision can be taken up by system without a human intervention over there. It's a auto decisions, auto correcting mode. It's like GPS system. You miss a turn, and then it gives you automatically a different path to reach the same destination. So all the system need to talk together, and there is a visibility in the system. Speedy innovation cycle, we talked about to keep pace with customer expectation. Highly customized products, people want it, and they need to be delivered swiftly as well. So are we talking about suppliers, or are we talking about business partners? We need to have the business partners who have same kind of vision, same kind of business ethics, which you would like to have, same kind of business strategy. If your business strategy is to go to market with a speed and your suppliers are not agile, you had it. So are we still on supplier, or are we talking about business partners? Local versus global, again, there need to be a balance between local and global, or at least I know the pressure on supply chains will continue to be on cost saving, but do we have a plan B? Once we have the global, do we have plan B in case of some issues? Can we source it locally, or we are totally dependent? We need to think about it. Cost versus speed, certainly we need to decide which segment we are in, and whether we need to be totally cost focused, or there is something optimized cost for the speed with which we are working. We need to find out a way and balance over there. Flexibility and agility, quickly, I think we need to have less downtime, capacity management in manufacturing, single line doing multiple products, and multi versus mono sourcing, what kind of thing we want to do. Certainly, we need to think about predictive maintenance we talked about. I'll not cover it again. Scenario planning we talked about, and collaborative approach is something which I'll take a minute, that we need to work with our partners as collaboration and find out that what all we can do together to find out. It's an example, like if feedstock is not available, have I been working continuously with R&D of my supplier, that what are the alternates available, so that proactively I have that if A is not available, I have B which could be utilized. Do we do it, that collaborative approach, proactively, or we do when the issue comes up? If we do as we do when the issue comes up, you lose the entire market. Somebody else takes it, somebody else satisfies your consumers, and the market share from you is gone. I'm happy to put this chart that over a period of time, the investment in IT infrastructure as a percentage of total capex in manufacturing is going up, which shows that people are talking about machine learning investment. People are putting up the lines with AI, which autocorrect, which give lots of signals where correction is to be taken, which give indication for the breakdowns which might happen if you don't go for the predictive maintenance. So that is happening, and it is very encouraging to see that that investment is going up. Planning to predict, real-time data, more accurate decisions you need to have, and for that you need real-time data. Foster stronger supplier relation we talked about, building on each other capabilities we already covered, and business continuity plan. And what it in general talks about is digitization, so that you have the real-time data, transparency. Integrated planning is that systems need to talk to each other inside and outside your organization, and partnership, I think we have covered fully into detail kind of thing. So what we are saying is these are the 4 pillars of the future ready supply chains where we need to work. Some of the industry they are into different stage of evolution, but these are the basic things which we need to work and be ready for these kind of pandemic or any kind of disruption which could come in. And the organization will be winning the marketplace through being ready in advance, proactively. And finally, I put my final slide saying that future supply chains will look very different. And so will the people that work in around them. We talked about the talent and skills which will be required by these people in terms of data analytics. The capabilities that got organization where they are today won't be enough to compete in the dynamic, demanding, and consumer-driven future for tomorrow. We have to constantly innovate. We need to constantly evolve and reach into that 4th stage of Gartner's 4 steps of supply chain evaluation, which you saw. And that's where we will be able to compete in the market. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. If you don't mind, just you stop the slide share options, so it will be better. Yeah.
Right now, is there, I think there are 15 participants only I can see.
No, actually there is a Facebook archive, many people in Facebook also.
All right.
So it is A plus B, because the new generation, they prefer to see the Facebook. Yeah, I now the time for open round question session. Yeah, we are fortunate enough that Mr. Gupta has shown the entire, I cannot say 360, it is 720-degree verticals. What it was, what are the challenges, future model. So this is perfectly planning to predict. So that is a future dimension. Yeah, so now this is open question rounds. So the participants, those who have watched the webinar, they may raise the question through chat box.
Sure.
Yeah, one question came directly to me, sir. I will just refer. This is the concept has started, say, last decade. That is agile supply chain. Now, in your company, okay, that is in Rekit and this Banki, sir. So, what are the system you followed to maintain the agile supply chain?
Okay. See, different part, we are a truly multinational organization. Now, in different part of the world, we are at a different phase of supply chain. I'll talk about South Asia. Rahul, in South Asia, we have invested heavily in terms of the artificial intelligence, where machine learning, where we are collecting lots of data on daily basis, and then we are getting converting this data into the information which is available right at the shop floor to take the decisions. Right. We also, as I have talked about the in terms of the it's not only about the digitization, it is about also partnership. We are working closely with our partners so that there is a culture to report the issues well in advance. And if you capture the issues in advance, right, proactively, you can take the action in advance, and that's how you can at least avoid the big disruptions which are happening in place. So one thing is investment in technology, in manufacturing, across supply chain, which is where warehouse management, OTM, which is the transportation management system, HANA, which is the supply planning. So heavily investment on technology, collaborative approach with the suppliers. Number three is in terms of heavy investment into the market research and consumer research so that you know the demand pattern. The demand is the basic input to your entire planning. And if it is garbage in, it is garbage out. You need to be very, very accurate, or at least the maximum whatever you can do. So I think it's a multi-pronged strategy being taken at every stage of supply chain, as well as in the business processes, which is giving us kind of winning you know edge over others. And if you see in 2020, our organization has done much better because of we could flexibly produce. The hand sanitizer demand was very high. It was skyrocketed, and still we were, of course, we could produce even more, and that could have gone to consumer, because our vision is to service consumers' health, and we talk about health of consumers. So that could have been much better further. However, we did compared to the usual demand which we service, we did multiple high supply into the market and came out with flying colors because of these preparations.
Thank you, sir, being answered these questions. One question again came. I'm referring through the Facebook chat. Okay. The challenges you said, that local sources versus global sourcing. Am I right, sir? And this is a right approach to follow that collaborative approach. So what is the current trend in industry? Current trend. Say, forget about the pandemic scenario. What is the current trend in collaborative
No,
approach?
yeah, we cannot forget about pandemic, because current pandemic has changed the entire thinking of the
Okay,
industry.
okay.
So we cannot forget the current trend. However, the current before and after, we will talk about that. Before pandemic, certainly the entire focus, our supply chains were global supply chains. As I mentioned, you source from South Africa, you produce in Indonesia, and you sell in India. So these were the true global supply chains which were there. So wherever it is cost effectively available, and wherever it can be produced cheapest, these were being done. Now, having said that, I think the recent pandemic has shown us the disruption in supply chain in terms of port congestion. And if the country was China, entire dyes and pigment category comes from China.
Yeah.
And you know the product of FMCG, which is the product which doesn't use dye or pigment, and everything got impacted, right? Now, the issue is that more and more people are thinking now to balance it out, that from global, can it go to regionalization? From regionalization, can it to be at the country level? So it's balancing out between the global and local. Does it mean that you are taking a call on the cost? I will say yes, you are. However, not able to service the consumer is a bigger loss than any cost which you incur extra. And that's where people are working now, that there need to be a balancing between the global and local sourcing. I think most of the industries have learned the lesson who had not done it earlier, and they are working on this now.
Fair enough, sir. So it is again nicely you have elaborated. So coming the next questions again refer to the Facebook chat, that is Gartner's four-step supply chain models. So we usually teach the students, or it is basically the trend in the corporate. Basically we are chatting since last 10 days. That is strategic sourcing. We call this is first challenge to build up long-term relationship or multi-tier supply relationship. Okay. So multi-tier supply relationship would be followed in the Gartner's four-step supply chain, or it is certain different.
See, the concept is same all over, right? The
Okay.
concept remains. I will start with JIT. Now, do you have the exact JIT everywhere? No, I think
No.
they are almost JIT or they are closer to JIT.
Yeah.
So the heart of the concept remains same, right? Now, you customize it to your requirement. You don't have to, it can't be same. You can't fit one solution to all. You have to customize the concept to suit your industry. You get my point? Within the industry, you might have different kind of suppliers, which are strategic, which are tactical, which are the very small suppliers. You need to customize that concept so that you are still partnering with each segment of the supplier. So I would say, of course, the supplier partnership concept remains same. You need to customize it basis the supply demand dynamics, depending on the which kind of product you are in. If you are into the product where there is a monopoly kind of thing, you have the different supply partnership concept over there. If you have multiple suppliers, you have different kind of thing. If you do forward buying for some of the product, you have different kind of partnership. So the concept remains same. However, you need to customize to suit your need and basis the product which you are buying.
Okay, sir. It is again a good experience you have shared. The two questions came, so I'm referring for your just attention. How is the data analytics changing the game in the logistic industry? And the second questions just making two, so you can answer according to your convenience. How is the data analytics changing the game in the logistic industry? Second part, how robotic process automation is important in the logistics industry.
Right. I think this is RPA, what you are talking about, the data analytics. Uh, I would say how it is helping now. That is only helping logistics to give the edge. I'll put it like this.
Okay,
So
sir.
if you have the visibility, where is your truck now today, right? And you have it on your screen kind of thing. You have a better control on the service level of the consumer. Now the modern trade, they are giving you a window to deliver your products. I think some of you might be knowing it, that you are given window 4 to 5 and your material should reach over there. And if it doesn't reach over there, they don't take it inside, right? Because 5 to 6, there are some other people, those who are supplying over there. Now, if you are on live and you have the data where it is, how much time it takes, you know where is the improvement need to happen, or fine, it is going okay. So data analytics in logistics area is playing a major role in terms of service level maintenance. That's number one. Number two, it is also giving you a lot of help in terms of route planning, right? It is the primary distribution where the route planning, that why it takes so much of time, and then how it can take lesser time. Even in the secondary distribution, where you are doing the milk run, etc., and you are
Yeah.
planning that how can you do the milk run for the distributor and ensure the service over there in the small towns, in the rural areas. So it's a data analytics is giving lot of help in route planning, in cost saving, in managing your service levels, a huge support coming in from them. Number one. Second part of your answer about RPA is WMS is completely, if you talk about the warehouse management, etc., RPA is playing a major role over there, which aisle, which level, what is lying over there, it is completely over there in WMS. And then you have the robots which are working in your warehouses. I know there are still challenges over this RPA. However, in the WMS, where it's a advanced stage, it's playing a major and critical role. The human intervention has gone down, and hence the error, even the order fulfillment, PFR and OFR, which you are talking about for service level, is much improved with their help, because the human intervention, human error is minimized.
Okay, sir. So I think the question raised by the concerned persons, you have nicely answered. One more question in came through Facebook, that is, in the Gartner's four-step supply chain, you said the level one is reacting, level two is anticipating, level three is collaborating, and level four basically orchestrating. So what is exactly orchestrating and collaborating?
Orchestrating. Right. The orchestrating. Hello, you can hear me? You can hear me? Am I audible?
Yeah. Sometimes there is
Am I
disruptions. Yeah, now it's
okay? I'll put off my audio so that bandwidth is
yeah,
better and
better,
you can hear me.
better, sir. Yeah.
Right. So orchestrating, see, the third level which we talk about is in terms of collaborating. Orchestrating is in terms of same thing which we talked about predicting, right? You predict in advance through your transparency, which is in the system, with the collaboration which you are doing with your partners up and down the supply chain. You are predicting and then accordingly orchestrating in advance. So orchestrating is nothing but you predict and accordingly prepare your entire supply chain within the organization and outside the organization to tackle it in a better way. And that is orchestrating. You predict, you plan, and then avoid and avert the disaster or magnitude of the disaster which could have happened if you were not predicting it. Does it answer your question, Professor?
Yeah. It is clear. So I think they have also listened, okay, through Facebook. Okay, it is in archiving mode. So is there any questions? Let me see the question and answer. So I think around 7 or 8 questions they raised and we have answer. So anyhow, sir, in future also we will request you to address. Okay, one of the areas still pending which we have discussed. Let the session begin, and I hope so. This time you will accept our kind hospitality. So now we are in the concluding mode of this webinar. So where our chief guest was Mr. Radhamohan Gupta. Currently, he holds the position as Regional Procurement Director, South Asia, one of the leading MNC, Reckitt and Benixar. So, wish you all the best, sir, and wish you a happy weekend. And on behalf of the ISBN Winter family, we extend our deep gratitude to you. Be safe during this pandemic situation. And I also thank to all the participants, those who are there for over an hour with us and raise the questions. And my special thanks to our IT system and support team for providing their what you errorless support to us to make this webinar in a great success. Thank you here, Mr. Gupta. Okay.
Thank you
And
from
we,
my side as
yeah,
well to students who attended.
yes,
Wonderful
yes,
questions.
yes,
I
yes,
I love interacting with the students and great questions. Hopefully, we will see you soon. Thank
yes,
you.
sir. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all. We conclude this webinar. Thank you very much.